Love this podcast? Support it and sponsor today. Simply head to ozcastnetwork.com for details.
Welcome to the wide world of wrestling. My name's Simon Tackler, my co-host Neal Walters. Neal, how's it going?
I'm good. Just dealing with 6 more weeks of wrestling apparently, because that's all life's going to throw at us at the moment. But yeah, thank God we still got this to watch, because that's all I'm doing at the moment.
Yeah, for us here in Melbourne, this is all we have to keep us entertained for the next few weeks. But that's okay, because there is so much wrestling going on, and we are going to be here covering it all. Here on the Ozcast Network. Make sure you subscribe to the podcast for everything that's coming up. We've got, pay-per-views to review. And this week we've got week 2 of the Wednesday Night War doubleheader Fyter Fest versus NXT's Great American Bash. Let's just get straight into it, because these were both pretty big shows. Should we go into Fyter Fest first?
Yeah, well, I think we start Fyter Fest first, because I think... I don't know. I think last week I gave the advantage to AEW.
Yep.
And I thought that they took it out. But this week I think it jumped ship, and it was NXT. That was the better show for me overall. But it's like by an absolute bees, because it was so close. I thought that both shows were good. Not great, but good. But I think that NXT was had the wood over AEW this week.
All right, well, we'll kick it off with the first match. Kenny Omega and Hangman Adam Page defeated Private Party. I thought this was one of the best matches of the whole night. I go up and down with Private Party, but when they're in a high-stakes match like this, like that great one they had with the Young Bucks, at the start of Dynamite, this was great.
I think Private Party are only as good as their opposition, personally. Okay. I think you saw that last week when they took on Santana and Ortiz. Didn't think it was a great match, but then this week you got Omega and Page, who are just two veterans that are amazing at what they do, and it just stepped everything up to a whole nother level. They could do a lot more. It was a lot more interesting for me. It was about the same time length as last week, but it felt like it went a lot quicker.
Yeah, and I think Omega and Page, I'm glad they've held off on, the eventual split of the team, because these matches the past 2 weeks just show that, I want to see them wrestle everyone on the roster, because these matches are great. Yeah,
and look, the split is one of those things that has to happen when there's a crowd again. I know we keep talking about when there's a crowd, but you don't want to see Omega versus Page unless it's a street fight on the street done cinematically or something like that. You wouldn't want to see these two in front of 15 people at an empty arena. You definitely want to see that at a WrestleMania type show for AEW, whatever that'll be in the future. So I'd say they'll stay together for quite a long time. When they do, it'll be a big event.
Well, up next, speaking of big, we had Lance Archer, who is quite big, taking on Joey Janela, who is quite small in comparison. What did you think of this one? We were talking about Lance Archer last week, how the momentum he had with Cody sort of disappeared, and this is his first big match since against Joey Janela.
Yeah, look, I thought it was a decent match. I did think it went a little bit too long. Again, it got 11 minutes for what should have really been a squash match. Jake Roberts is starting to get on my nerves a little bit. Jake the Snake, you got to love him. I love his whole thing, but it's starting to get to the point where you're like, it's the same thing every match. So I'm interested to see what happens there between those two, because it just didn't feel like they were on the same page. Jake the Snake Roberts nearly cost him the match when he went up to the side of the ring, and Joey Janela nearly picked up the win. So yeah, it's a tough one where Lance Archer goes from now, because you're like, well, does he go for the title? Because, is that a match we want to see, or does he just keep beating up people that are smaller than him?
He's got a lot of potential despite his age. I feel like there's a lot Lance Archer could do. I don't know if him and Jake is going to last long. yeah, it doesn't feel
No.
like it's got legs anymore for whatever reason. It just feels off.
Can we just talk about how fake Jack's teeth are too?
Gonna bring that
He's
up.
got the whitest fake teeth that I've ever seen. And every time he smiles, you just like, those come out of your head every night for sure.
It looks like he's
insane.
smiling sometimes, even when he's not. He'll just be clenching his teeth, but they're so fake. You're like, is he happy about this? He just looks happy about everything.
Yeah,
He looks like Lenny in The Simpsons when he gets a facelift or whatever. This is the saddest day of my life.
Or when Bart puts in Grandpa's teeth.
Yeah, they're huge.
And they're huge. That's
on the
him.
fan.
We need to Photoshop that in.
All right, I'll try and do that. It's great. Up next, it was a promo. Taz presenting Brian Cage with the FTW title. I like this. I know it's just a week before the match, but I kind of like it.
I love that Taz the Thumb was very... I'm the only one saying that too, just in case he wants to beat you up. He said how prestigious that belt was. I remember that belt. I looked and I'm like, hang on, wasn't Taz the only guy ever to hold that? And it was him and I think Sandman.
I think Sabu, maybe. I feel like
Sabu,
it was barely.
sorry,
Yeah, it was him and Sabu, and that's it.
It went him, Sabu, back to him, and then that was it.
And that was it.
He was saying how prestigious the belt is, how good it is, how no one recognized the belt. It's like, yeah, because ECW didn't want a bar of it because it was just Taz's belt. And they were just trying to build it up to this like huge, big, awesome thing. Look, I think it's sick because Moxley should take that belt next week. And then Moxley holds that belt over him and is like, I've got your belt. That's kind of cool.
Oh, that's kind of fun. He beats Cage and just grabs the belt and Taz can say, oh, this wasn't for the belt, brother. But Mox is like, no, I'm the baddest man on the planet, you son of a bitch. Yeah, that's kind of cool.
I like that setup.
Do you think Brian Cage is done, though, if he loses this match?
Nah, there's no way they give the title to him. Brian Cage is just very one-dimensional, or how they're playing him is very one-dimensional. He just looks like this big kind of, just a big dude with he's like a weird kind of Brock Lesnar thing, but without without anything else going on for him. Look, it could be an absolute banger of a match next week. I am really looking forward to it.
Yeah.
Because Moxley can make anyone look good. So if it's an awesome match, I still can't see Moxley losing it because how do you take the title off Moxley? He is the best thing that this company has really, except for Jericho. So I can't see him dropping it.
Yeah. All right. Well, I'm looking forward to it. And I'm looking forward to more promos with Moxley and Taz. So if this feud keeps going, I'm all for it. It'll be good.
Yeah.
Up next, to me, the absolute highlight from both shows, this absolute mental 8-man tag, Butcher, Blade, the Lucha Bros, Young Bucks, and FTR. This was wild. Literally
all of the best tag teams that are in across all of the brands in the one go, really. It was the Young Bucks to me still are the absolute pinnacle of tag team wrestling. They make everyone look awesome. It's not only about how good they are, it's just about how good they look make everyone else look. I know eventually on the same card you're going to get Omega versus Page and FTR versus Young Bucks. And that in itself is so mouth-wateringly good what's the main event there? And that's how good it is. You could have tag teams main eventing over someone like Omega versus Page, or even Moxley, because everyone cannot wait for that. Ladder matches between FTR and the Young Bucks, cage matches, the works. Like it's so good. And I loved that they lost. And then they didn't set it up. They didn't punch on or anything afterwards. They shook hands and then walked away, and that was it. I was like, thank Christ that it's not just, they lost, then they start fighting, and then we set it up for whatever the next pay-per-view is, because that would have been so disappointing to do that straight away.
Yeah, AEW is doing a good job of not paying things off right away. They're doing it the right way. Not everyone has to be so irrational that they're like, oh my God, my partner punched me, I better jump him after the match. Everyone in WWE, their characters are very, petty. They'll turn on someone after one miscommunication. So I like that.
Yeah.
drag it on a bit longer. But in terms of the match, some of these spots and some of the chemistry these guys had with each other was insane. And I know Butcher and the Blade are sort of the least known team in this match, but they look great too. They opened a lot of eyes and they fit in. I think they've been benefiting the past few weeks with just being in the mix for whatever reason. It's good.
Look, I love my old friend Andy Williams, seeing him get just better and better and better after every match. Like, it's so sick. Every single time he is in the ring, he made the Lucha Brothers look really good in this. Like, and he took a couple of huge spots, especially from FDR. Like, I think there was a point where Dax suplexed him onto the ring side. It was just like, Jesus, that looked hectic. So, he's doing really good. Even the development guys are pushing really hard and doing really well. So, 16 and a half minutes didn't feel like 16 and a half minutes at all.
Not at all. I honestly, for whatever reason, I thought this was an elimination match. Turns out it wasn't. It was just one fall. But my God, this was the most fun 16 minutes. That jump off the back to the outside Canadian Destroyer was the dumbest thing I've ever seen. I was sitting on my own watching it and I made a sound out loud. Doesn't happen often watching wrestling. I was like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
He pile drives someone onto a group of people. I feel like there were heads colliding. That was just mental.
Someone definitely got hurt, but that's what we need out of this. You need those huge spots. You're going to have 8 people in one match. You got to have huge spots all over it. And that's exactly what this was. And
that spot didn't even feel forced or like, oh yeah, they're on the outside. Yeah. Now they're waiting. I had out of all the things you were going to expect, you weren't expecting a Canadian Destroyer on a group of people.
No, you were expecting like a suicide dive or something like that. But nothing. No one picked that.
See, the Young Bucks, every time I'm thinking, oh, I'm over them. I don't know, man, that Christian AF shirt's a bit iffy. Then they do something like this. And I'm like, yeah, they're the best. Then we had Nyla Rose defeating 2 jobbers, for lack of a better term, just destroyed them. And that was sort of it.
Yeah, and then she said that she was hiring a manager now, and you're like, who is that manager going to be? The question was, who cares who that's going to be, because that just makes zero impact on her character for me.
You know who I like as a manager for her, though? I think Taz would be a good manager for her as well. She's sort of Taz-like.
Yeah, and look, that would refrain her from talking to, and clearly on the mic, she isn't great. She just didn't sound that interesting. So if you put her with Taz, maybe that's a little team up there. You could have some mixed tag team matches and such.
Give her the FTW title.
Yeah, absolutely.
It could be cool. She's like, I'm the uncrowned champ. No one's brave enough to fight me, you know?
Start bringing in their own, like a FTR women's belt. Just start making their own belts and go, well, we're the champions now.
Everyone's got a title. They're like, no, I'm
without winning anything.
Yeah. Up next, I thought it was weird to go into a 6-man tag after we just saw the most crazy 8-man tag. It wasn't too bad. I'm sort of over the Dark Order. I've never been on board. Brody Lee came in. I tried caring. Now they've got Colt Cabana sort of mixed in. I like SCU, but I couldn't. This wasn't bad at all. This was like pretty good, but I just couldn't care.
It was skippable as hell for me. I just found myself not. This is the only match on the card really I wasn't overly interested in. And especially I knew what was coming up. I'm like, Jericho versus Orange. This is going to be great. So, I think it was poorly booked doing a 6-man after an 8-man, because you just felt like you were seeing a similar thing again, but not as good.
Yeah, it couldn't live up to it. And then finally, the main event, Chris Jericho versus Orange Cassidy. I don't think they taped this on the night when they claim they did, because I swear, continuity issues. I saw Brian Pillman Jr. at the start of the show. He was wearing casual clothes on one side of the ring. In this match, though, he was on the other side in a leather vest, like in his wrestling gear. But anyway,
I picked up exactly the same thing.
Yeah, it was weird.
I think it was definitely on separate nights. Look, this was, for me, it was match of the night and close to match of both shows. Orange Cassidy just blew everyone out of the water. I don't think anybody expected this to go 18 minutes and to be unbelievably good. Orange Cassidy is my favorite in probably except for Moxley, my favorite wrestler at the moment, going around, because everything he does is so good. It doesn't get old. Him just this casual, I don't give a shit wrestler into just someone who just can take a hit, can just create incredible spots. Took Chris Jericho to the absolute limit. A lot of people, including myself, would have said he should have won this. That would have done a lot for him. But I also like the fact that, they can go again.
Yeah, they absolutely can. And the thing is, Jericho hasn't lost many matches. So I was unsure if they would let Orange Cassidy get one over him, but he didn't need to. We've seen this before where the up-and-comer takes the veteran to the limit, then the veteran just scrapes by. Chris Jericho did everything he could to make Orange Cassidy look like a star. Orange Cassidy is great. I'm glad they finally transitioned into him having matches like this, like the one with Pac a few months ago was awesome as well. Yeah. He's so good. People love him. The character works. I thought they took so long to pull the trigger. I was starting to get over it, but then, once they ramped it up with him, man, Orange Cassidy's great. And Chris Jericho, we say it all the time, but if he's not top 5 all time, then I don't know what you could be basing it on. He just kills it.
I would really, really like to see Orange Cassidy with a belt. Probably the TNT belt's the only option at the moment, because him versus Moxley doesn't make any sense because two faces. But if once Cody does drop the belt, I say it goes to a heel, and then you can get Orange Cassidy take that belt, because that would be so sick seeing him carry around a title, just holding on to it, dragging along the ground, or just putting it somewhere he's forgetting about it, doesn't really care. I'd love to see him get a title soon.
Well, that's almost perfect, because Cody almost cares too much, and he would be so offended that a guy who barely cares beats him. Cody's all about passion and drama, and everything's epic. So imagine the one guy he couldn't beat is the guy who doesn't care. That could tip Cody over the edge. That would be a great feud. That'd be awesome.
Yeah, maybe that's how you could turn Cody heel. Yeah. Because his character's starting to get a little bit dated too. It's the same thing all the time. Maybe Cody turns heel against Orange Cassidy and you can have that as a match. That would be incredible.
I think it'd be good. And before we move on to NXT, Fight for the Fallen has already taken shape. This looks like a really good card as well. We've got FTR versus the Lucha Bros, another dream match, and we're getting it next week. We're getting Jurassic Express in a 6-man tag against the Elite, so Omega and the Young Bucks. That's going to be a lot of fun. And of course,
weird though. You've got face versus face there. Same thing. You've got the Elite versus Jurassic Express, where I love that AEW are doing this. They don't care about face or heel. They're just going, this is 2 huge matches on a. It's not even a pay-per-view, is it? It's just standard
big show,
standard TNT. So why not do this kind of stuff? And I'd see something dodgy happening here, something weird between the Elite and Jurassic Express, someone running in or whatever. It looks interesting as hell to me.
Yeah, and of course we've got Cody Rhodes versus Sonny Kiss. That was announced for the TNT title. Sonny Kiss starting to get more of a run on Dynamite again. That could be a good match. And of course, we've got Moxley and Cage. That should be a good show. NXT is going to have to pull out all the stops to compete against a third super show basically.
Oh yeah. Look, that's going to be incredible. I can't wait. I can't wait for that one.
Well, getting into NXT, I'm going to be honest. I couldn't get into this NXT show. Candice LeRae versus Mia Yim street fight. I couldn't even get into this match. It was fine. Everything was fine on this show. I just couldn't get into it.
Yeah, look, I thought that it was a good street fight. I really did enjoy it. For especially what it was this only the second ever women's street fight in NXT. I think they kept saying time and time again. And I thought they smashed it. It was a good use of weapons. The ending was great. Candice LeRae continues to impress me time and time again. So I thought it was good.
Kind of an interesting finish though, because normally it's a bad guy who'll bring in the brass knucks and the good guy will use them against the bad guy. But this was the good guy bringing them in and it turned on them anyway.
Yeah.
subverting our expectations, I guess.
Interesting to see what it says on the Wikipedia page. So it says Tony Nese defeated Leon Ruff, but no time. And like, did it happen?
And they showed it in highlights, and they kept saying like, "Oh, it happened before the show," and then Bronson Reed came out and he was upset about it, so they had a match. So I don't know if we're counting that, but definitely Bronson Reed beat Tony Nese, and it's good to see the Aussie get some shine. Big Bronson Reed, he's very talented.
Big dude.
Just getting a win like that, I like it. Don't need to see Tony Nese so often. He's fine.
No. Yeah, just that was a skippable match for sure.
Yeah, and then up next, a match that, Shawn Michaels was hyping up as like, oh, this one could steal the show. Watch it. Gargano versus Swerve Scott. It was good, but I can't say anything more than that.
Yeah, look, I'm agreeing with you too. It's like I know I need to justify why I picked NXT over AEW this week. It's simply because of how good the main event was.
Okay.
Like, for me, the only pay-per-view standard match out of all of them, like that I would happily have main event a pay-per-view and feel like it was something epic, was the main event from the show. I think that had that over anything AEW did. And that's what I wanted, and that's what I was looking for at the moment too. So that's my justification of wanting this, because I'm going to say this, a lot of this NXT card, a lot of it was skippable. That was one of the worst Gargano matches I've seen. I wasn't overly interested in it. I didn't see a reason for it either. There wasn't a massive amount of build-up. And, Johnny versus Keith Lee to me is probably something coming up pretty soon, as he's looks like he's the only other guy that could probably take on Keith Lee that's fighting at the moment too. Yeah,
well, they had a great match at In Your House. I can see them doing the rematch. Johnny says he wants another shot. We then had I feel like we had multi-man matches on, across these shows. This one was the worst of the bunch, and I like a lot of the guys in this. Breezango and Drake Maverick against El Legado del Fantasma.
The worst name in wrestling.
It's
the worst name. Yeah. By a mile the worst. Drake Maverick. He's just held on to his spot, obviously, and then they put him in a match like this. It's so weird. Like, to me, Johnny Gargano versus Drake Maverick would have been sicker than this. I would have liked to have seen that. Something a little bit more high risk and interesting, because
give me Fandango versus Johnny Gargano. I love Fandango. He's my favorite guy in this match. Like, he's so good.
Yeah.
He's great.
Yeah. Wasn't interesting. Went for too long, and again, pretty skippable.
And I'm confused about these Legado del Fantasma guys. I know they're like, we're fighting for Lucha Libre, for everyone to treat it with respect. One of the dudes isn't even Mexican. Joaquin Wilde isn't Mexican. Yeah. He's Filipino. And that was always his thing in TNA. They're like, oh, Zema Ion, he's Filipino. And now all of a sudden he's like fighting for Lucha Libre heritage. I don't know. Maybe I'm like, I don't understand the culture. But to me, I
thought they were taking the piss. I really did. I thought they were absolutely taking the piss. And I was like, hang on, this doesn't make any sense at all. When they came out, I was like
the FBI in ECW, how they always had like a white guy or whatever who wasn't Italian. Maybe that's the joke. We're missing
full-blooded Italians, and one definitely wasn't.
Yeah. Up next, we had another women's match. This time it was a squash. Mercedes Martinez defeating Santana Garrett. I don't know.
Yeah. I'd like to see Mercedes take on Io Shirai. That's a good match to me.
Yeah.
Obviously, when someone has a close to main event spot on a card, obviously second before last, and then it's a squash, it's indicating that that's going to be next up for a title run. So yeah, I could see probably Martinez versus Shirai coming up pretty soon.
Yeah, it'll be a good fight. And we also got the hype package for Tegan Nox and Io Shirai. We were speculating, were they going to hold that match off? Maybe wait till, the title isn't on a face. But I guess they're doing it because Io Shirai is sort of, in the middle, a bit of a tweener. But yeah, Tegan Nox, Io Shirai, good video package. It'll be a good match for sure.
Yeah. I was hanging for it. I think that's going to be awesome.
Yep. And then we got Keith Lee, Adam Cole, both titles, epic NXT style over-the-top takeover match.
Huge, insane. The best match of the last 2 weeks for me by an absolute mile. Keith Lee is just it's so well deserved seeing him get both belts. That's obviously the end for Adam Cole for NXT. I think he goes up to Raw or SmackDown now. That's 99% of the time that's what happens when someone holds a belt for, over a year or a very long time with NXT. They drop it, they leave. Like that's it makes a lot of sense. And Raw or SmackDown both need Adam Cole right now. Like imagine if he goes to SmackDown, you have Jeff Hardy versus Adam Cole. Holy shit. You have Daniel Bryan versus Adam Cole. Holy shit. Like they can just kick off where they left off, really. If alternatively you see him go to Raw, AJ Styles versus Adam Cole.
Well, AJ's on SmackDown though.
Oh, sorry, SmackDown. Yeah, that's right. He got traded. Yeah,
he got traded for Dolph Ziggler. Well, Dolph versus Adam Cole. That'd be good.
Yeah, Dolph versus Adam Cole.
Drew and Adam Cole would be very good too.
Oh, and you go, and a lot of time they do that. They pair them up with who they fought with on NXT. So maybe people that don't watch NXT get a little bit of how good's this? And they could just repeat matches that they've already done. Drew versus Adam Cole would be huge.
Adam Cole versus Aleister Black. They had that insane street fight on TakeOver years ago. Give me that again. Adam Cole is a guy, though. I don't think fans should expect that he goes to Raw and SmackDown and gets to the main event right away. I think he's going to be working against his size. That's just how it is. Adam Cole, isn't the biggest guy. They can tell me he's 6 foot and 200 pounds all they want. It's not true. And I think you're going to see that when he gets to the main roster. He looks tiny.
You put him next to Keith Lee, and Keith Lee is a Brock Lesnar size, and he looks tiny.
Yeah. But that's good. He'll win him over with his, not just in-ring talent. I really think Adam Cole's strength is on the mic, which is going to take him further than what most people can get to on the main roster. That dude can talk. Yeah. He's great.
Absolutely. Yeah, but literally, we've just named 5 or 6 dream matches with Adam Cole. So I'm stoked he dropped it. I'm stoked it's to Keith Lee because now Keith is going to, I think he'll hold both of those belts for at least a little while. It's interesting. They got a 20-minute match. It was just an epic. It was the perfect ending to Adam Cole's time at NXT, and it is pretty clear that he's gone. So yeah, I think everyone's a winner out of this match.
Yeah, and a good time for Adam Cole to leave too, because the rumors were that his contract is up in August. So they can have some fun with it, take him off TV for a few weeks and just speculate, which brand is Adam Cole going to? He's left.
Or is he leaving?
Yeah,
is he leaving altogether? Yeah. Maybe just drop in a couple of AEW rumors that no one's going to believe. And then he comes back and smashes someone on Raw or SmackDown. That's it.
Yeah, he's in a good spot. Even if he is legitimately bargaining for a better contract, he should be free to do so.
Yeah, see, that's the thing. If it's very obvious to me that he is staying, because otherwise, why would he drop the belt? If he drops the belt now, before his contract's up, I think if he was going, they would have kept him on NXT until the absolute last minute. And then make him drop the belt and then he goes. But because he's staying with WWE, he drops it now, then he can go straight to Raw and SmackDown and start making a name for himself.
Yeah, I think so. Him and Rey Mysterio, that's another one off the top of my head. So many good matches.
He could fight pretty much anyone. Maybe him and Strowman too. Take out a big guy straight away. That'd be cool.
Well, with the Undisputed Era, he can.
Yeah. If they all go, then why not?
So that's the Wednesday Night Wars part 2 of these head-to-head shows. Next week, we're getting Fight for the Fallen from AEW. We'll see how NXT follows up Keith Lee becoming the double champ. And next week, we're also going to have to preview the horror show at Extreme Rules. There is a lot to talk about. That's going to be a wild show by the sounds of things, with gimmick matches galore.
Yeah, why the hell is it called horror show? Look, one thing I want to say about that match is if they don't do the 3 faces of Wyatt they're blowing it, because I think that's what's going to happen. But yeah, we'll talk much more in depth about that next week.
Yeah, it's going to be some real silliness. But until then, make sure you subscribe, stay up to date. You can subscribe on Apple Podcasts, on Spotify, Google Podcasts. We're everywhere on the Ozcast network. Just search for the Wide World of Wrestling or Ozcast Wrestling, and you'll find us there. So until then, Neal, talk to you later.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you.
Love this podcast? Support it and sponsor today. Simply head to ozcastnetwork.com for details.